Welcome to the Mark Casto Program, where we challenge the old systems, build with kingdom clarity, and help a generation of wise messengers turn their God-given wisdom into lasting impact and real wealth. Now, let's talk about where we are right now. We're living in a time where creativity is no longer rare, but originality is. Where machines are getting better at doing what we used to think made us human. Writing, designing, composing, teaching, yes, even counseling. Artificial intelligence is no longer a sci-fi concept. It's here, it's fast, it's scalable, and guess what? It's not going away. And you can prompt a chatbot to write an entire ebook in 10 seconds. You can build a brand with AI logos and AI voiceovers and AI-generated talking head videos. You can fake a face, clone a voice, produce endless content without ever touching a real idea. But here's the tension. Just because the tools are evolving doesn't mean your calling is. In this new world of instant content and automation, the loudest voice isn't the most powerful one anymore. The most consistent voice isn't even the most trusted. The voice that cuts through is the one that carries substance. And that's what I want to talk to you about today, because if you're someone who's been given deep insight, if you've lived through something worth sharing, if you've carried a message, built a framework, or solved a problem that others need, then this AI moment is not your enemy. It's just a test. Will you automate what's sacred? Will you outsource what's personal? Or will you dig deeper into the one thing AI will never have? Ready? Wisdom. Not just data, not just noise, wisdom. Because AI can write an answer, but it can't live a life. It can mimic creativity, but it can't carry a calling. And that's the line I want to draw today. This isn't an anti-tech message. This is a pro-wisdom moment. And we're entering an age where your ideas, yes, they're going to be filtered through algorithms. Your creativity will be compared to code. Your relevance will be challenged by machines that never sleep. But the people who will thrive in this next era, they're not the ones who pump out the most content. They're the ones who create from the clearest place inside of them. They don't just create to be seen. They create to serve. They don't just make things that get clicks. They build things that last. So here's what I want to unpack today. What prophetic creativity really means without the fluff or hype, why your unique wisdom will always beat machine-generated noise, how to leverage AI without losing your voice, and what it looks like to build in the tension between innovation and integrity. Because right now, there's a massive opportunity. AI can do a lot, but you know what it can't do? It can't do you. As my wife would say, it can't do you, boo. It can replicate patterns, but it can't replicate presence. And if you learn how to lead with your wisdom, own your voice, and build from clarity, you'll rise above the noise and become someone this generation can actually trust. And that's what we're doing here. That's what Wise Builders is all about. Quick word here. This episode is sponsored by the Wise Builders Wisdom to Wealth Challenge. Friend, if you're ready to turn your story, skills, or systems into a high-value digital product business, then I want you to join this 3-day challenge right now. Full clarity, real momentum. All you got to do is click the link below. It's markcasto.co/challenge. Reserve your seat. Let's jump into this podcast and really get this thing started today. Let's zoom out for a moment. Artificial intelligence isn't just a new tool. It's ushering in a new era. And the people who understand that, who see it not just as tech, but as a cultural shift, they're going to be the ones to lead the next decade. AI is changing how we think, how we create, how we connect, and how we do business. And the scary part, most people aren't thinking deeply about what it all means. They're just racing to keep up, automate this, shortcut that, use the tool, move faster, scale harder. But here's the danger. When you move fast without thinking deeply, you lose yourself in the process. And this is where we are right now. We're at a creative crossroads. It's the first time in history that machines can produce at scale the very things that used to require years of life experience, training, or even suffering to create. And that means anyone can look like a thought leader. Anyone can launch a brand, write a book, or create content on command. But let's get real. Looking like a thought leader isn't the same as being one. So I want to talk about, and I want to break this down for you, about the imitation game. See, AI tools like ChatGPT, Claude, Midjourney, Synthesia aren't thinking. They're not inspired. They're trained on billions of inputs, and they do one thing really well: predict what should come next based on what's already been done. Guys, that's not innovation. That's the product of repetition. See, AI is a mirror of what already exists, and it can only remix, repackage, and reframe what it has seen before. So that means if we're not careful, we'll start building content and even businesses based on reflection, not revelation. That's when we start sounding like everyone else. We start chasing popularity instead of clarity, trends instead of truth, noise instead of nuance, and slowly we stop asking the deeper questions like, what is my original contribution? What wisdom do I carry that no tool can produce? And am I building something that lasts or just something that performs? So we've got to get something clear. AI is not evil. It's not the enemy, but it is seductive. Why? Because it offers you output without the process. You don't have to think as long. You don't have to wrestle as deeply. You don't have to fail publicly or revise painfully. You just plug in a prompt and out comes a product. But real creativity was never just about producing. It was about becoming. And that's what prophetic creativity is. It's not just making something, it's becoming someone in the process of creating something. It's rooted in listening, in reflection, observation, and often disruption. Friend, I want to tell you why this moment feels so loud. We live in a hyper-stimulated world. We're exposed to more content in a day than our ancestors saw in a lifetime. And now with AI, the volume is only increasing. But more doesn't mean better. In fact, the more content that exists, the more valuable real wisdom becomes. Because now people are starving for clarity, starving for substance, starving for someone who can cut through the clutter and say something real. I know you feel it. That exhaustion with endless tips and tactics and templated voices. People don't just want content anymore. They want connection. They want to hear something that doesn't feel like it was spit out in 7 seconds by a server in Silicon Valley. They want you, your process, your story, your actual insight, not just what quote unquote performs on the platform. And one of the biggest side effects of this AI's rise is the illusion of expertise. We are entering an age of shallow authority, where someone can generate an entire brand, launch a course, write a 200-page ebook, and build a 10,000 follower base, all without having lived or learned deeply. Friend, they're not experts. They're operators, and it's working for now. But the marketplace is beginning to wake up. We're about to see a shift, a craving for voices that are less curated and honestly, more revelatory, authentic, voices that have paid a price for their perspective. Not perfect voices, but honest ones, tested ones. And here's the good news. If you've been in a season of hiddenness, if you've been walking through struggle, if you've been learning things the long way, this moment's actually made for you, because when the world is flooded with artificial content, authenticity becomes a superpower. Not the kind of authenticity that overshares, the kind that overflows from depth. So why does all of this matter, Mark, for creators and entrepreneurs? Well, friend, if you're building a personal brand, a digital product business, a thought leadership platform, or any kind of content-based movement, you can't afford to ignore what AI is doing, But you also can't afford to abandon your unique voice in the name of efficiency. You don't need to compete with AI. You need to become even more human, more personal, more reflective, more refined in how you share what you know. This is the shift from output to origin. You're not just a content creator. You're a message carrier. You're someone who has a perspective, and that perspective has the power to move people, but only if you protect the process that shaped it. And that's where prophetic creativity comes in. See, this isn't just a technological shift. It's a generational one, and we're being forced to decide. Will we be creators or curators? Will we automate our ideas or activate our wisdom? Will we let machines teach us how to speak, or will we remember how to listen? Because what this world doesn't need is another 10-second hook or 10-slide carousel that disappears in the next 48 hours. What it needs is creators who know how to carry something meaningful, something original, something that was formed in silence before it was ever shared on the screen. Friend, that's the future I believe in. That's the kind of leader I want to be. And that's the kind of leader I believe you are becoming. So let's talk more about that. Let's unpack what is prophetic creativity, what makes it different from everyday content creation, and why the world needs more of it now. So, if we're going to talk about prophetic creativity, we have to define it clearly, without fluff, without hype, and without over-spiritualizing this idea. Because too often, the phrase prophetic or creativity, it gets hijacked. Some think it means mystical inspiration. Others think that it only applies to people on a stage or somebody with a platform. But I want to bring it back down to something really practical. Here's how I choose to define it. Prophetic creativity is the ability to create from revelation, not just insight. It's creating not just for attention, but with intention. It's building from a sense of clarity about the future, not just reacting to trends from the past. Prophetic creativity is about two things: foresight and framework. It's when you take what you see, not with your eyes, but with your understanding, and you turn that into something that serves others. It could be a message, it could be a business, it could be a brand, a product, a book, a system, or a service, but the root of it isn't noise, it's wisdom. And I want to make this really clear. This is not just for creatives. This is for builders, entrepreneurs, for thought leaders, for anyone who's building something that solves real problems and speaks to real people. Because in this age of artificial intelligence, the temptation is to become a copy of a copy of a copy, to create fast instead of deep, to produce what the algorithm rewards instead of what your soul actually carries. But prophetic creativity says, I will build what I see coming, not just what's trending. See, some people think prophetic creativity is about being edgy or artsy. It's not. It's about building with clarity ahead of the curve. It's not just art, it's strategy. So, friend, it's about reading the room and then designing what the room is going to need next year, not just for today. So if you're a coach who's 12 months ahead of your ideal client, you're creating prophetically. If you're a business owner who designs systems based on what people really need, not just what they think they want, you're creating prophetically. If you're a communicator who's saying what others are only starting to feel, that's prophetic creativity. It's the edge that makes what you create matter. It's what separates the ones who are building legacy from the ones just chasing likes. And where does that come from? Prophetic creativity doesn't come from hype. It comes from, and I know some of you are going to hate me for saying this, but it comes from process. It comes from listening. It comes from prayer. And prayer where you learn to not do all the talking. It comes from thinking while everyone else is reacting, paying attention to patterns and problems and people while everyone else is just posting. It's not born in a brainstorm session. It's born in observation. It's the quiet questions you keep asking. It's the dots you keep connecting. It's the feeling in your gut when something's off and the clarity that comes when you lean in anyway. That's what separates generic content from original contribution. And let's be honest, we need more people creating from this place. So, Mark, why does it matter right now? Well, here's why this matters more than ever. Because AI can generate what's already been done. But prophetic creativity can only come from a human being who's awake. You've lived something. You've wrestled with something. You've seen things others haven't seen yet. You've carried burdens and you've built frameworks and you've overcome resistance. That's where prophetic creativity is forged. Not from a clever prompt, but from a deep well. And that's what gives you an edge that AI never will. Because it's not just about what you say. It's about why you say it. It's about the wisdom behind the words, the credibility behind the claims, the story behind the framework. And when you build from that place, your message lands differently. People don't just hear you, they trust you. They don't just follow you, they buy in. Because they're not buying content. They're buying clarity. They're buying confidence. They're buying results from someone who's actually lived it. So let me tell you something. If you're trying to build a digital business, a brand, or a platform in this noisy world, you can't afford to sound like everybody else. That's the problem in this online space. Everybody sounds like everybody. Friend, you can't afford to just produce based on what's already out there. You need to build from your wisdom. That's why you download this podcast, because it's different. That's why in Wise Builders, we teach our people not just how to launch digital products, but how to uncover the source of their authority. We don't start with content. We start with clarity. We ask, what have you lived through that others are still trying to navigate? I ask our people, what process did you create that solves a specific problem? What conversations do people naturally come to you for? What do you know that can't be Googled? Because that's the seed of a prophetic business, a business rooted in wisdom, not just activity, not just the aesthetics, not just hacks and trends. That's what sets you apart in this AI-saturated age. You're not building from popularity. You're building from purpose. Now, let me say this plainly. If you build from your feed, you'll always be behind. But if you build from that fire that's burning within you, you'll always be ahead. The feed is filled with noise. The fire is where refinement happens. And listen, I get it. There's pressure to produce. There's pressure to be fast. But prophetic creativity isn't about keeping up. Prophetic creativity actually keeps you ahead even though you're moving at a slower pace. I'm going to say that again. Prophetic creativity isn't about keeping up. You're always going to be ahead because you chose to go at a slower pace. Friend, prophetic creativity is about rising above. It's about knowing your lane, owning your revelation, building things that don't expire in 30 days. And if you do that well, you'll never be out of work. You'll never be out of relevance because people will always be hungry for wisdom in a world flooded with information. And friend, that's where the quote comes from. If you've heard me teach, if you've heard me share, I definitely know all of my wise builders have heard this. I don't like to use the word knowledge. That's why I always talk about wisdom, because knowledge is the accumulation of information. But wisdom is knowing what to do with the knowledge that you have. That's a big difference. So, friend, if you've been questioning whether your voice still matters, let me say this unequivocally. Yes, it does. But it has to be your true voice, the one shaped by revelation, not just insight, the one formed in fire, not just filtered for views. That's prophetic creativity. And that's what we're going to need more of, not less, as this AI age unfolds. Now, I'm going to take you through some biblical patterns of innovation, not to preach, but to show you how ancient wisdom has always shaped the future, Even in the most technological times, it's still the builders with revelation who lead. And remember, if you're ready to turn your message into a movement, your wisdom into a business, and your process into a product, join me for our 3-day Wisdom to Wealth Challenge. The link's below in the description of the Show Notes podcast. So let's talk about something that might surprise a few people: the connection between innovation and the ancient wisdom found in Scripture. Now, before you check out, this isn't a theology class, but I want to show you something that's been true for thousands of years. Every major breakthrough in history, every industry shift, every creative renaissance, every economic leap has almost always been sparked by someone with a clear, disruptive vision rooted in wisdom. And you don't need to believe in the Bible as a religious text to see this. You just have to look at it as a blueprint for how wisdom has always shaped culture. There's a pattern in Scripture, a flow of how innovation happens. And it's more relevant today than ever before. So I'm going to show you 5 patterns here. Pattern number 1, revelation precedes innovation. The first time we see something truly innovative happen in Scriptures in the life of Noah. Before there were boats, before there were floods, before anyone knew what a deluge even meant, Noah gets a download for something that doesn't exist yet. He didn't build what he saw, he built what he heard. See, that's what prophetic creativity is. Building something before it's popular, before it's logical, before it's in demand. The ark wasn't a response to culture. It was a statement of foresight. I love to actually go to the Scripture in Genesis where it says, in the days of Noah, the earth was filled with violence and injustice. But the Bible says, but Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord, which meant Noah was able to look above the problems of his culture and see something different in the eyes of Yahweh. See, the same is true for you. If you're getting ideas that don't make sense to the market yet, that's probably a sign that you're early, and early is where the innovators live. Then there's pattern number 2. Design comes from discernment. So if we jump forward a little bit in the Scripture, there's a moment where a man named Bezalel is asked to build the tabernacle. And God gives Moses and his team the design in excruciating detail, the materials, the measurements, the patterns, colors. But here's the key. Bezalel wasn't just a craftsman. He was a creator who listened first. He didn't go viral on Pinterest. He wasn't copying another culture. He designed something that hadn't existed on earth before. See, because discernment always precedes design. That means before you start your next business or build your next product or post your next piece of content, why don't you take a moment and ask, what am I hearing right now that others aren't? What am I seeing that others are ignoring? What does the future need, and how do I begin shaping it now? That's pattern 2. Pattern 3, obedience unlocks opportunity. Another person in the book of Genesis worth studying is Joseph. Joseph was a dreamer, but more than that, he was a strategist. He didn't just interpret Pharaoh's dream about the famine. He offered a plan. 7 years of storing grain, systems, structures, distribution, strategies. That's not just prophetic. That's brilliant innovation. Guys, he built supply chains before supply chains were a thing. And here's what we can learn. Prophetic creativity is not just about having a message. It's about building a system that delivers that message to the world. See, Joseph didn't just save Egypt. He positioned himself and his family and an entire nation for long path influence. Some of you have a message, but no mechanism. You've got wisdom, but no way to deliver it. And that's where digital products, automations, funnels, scalable offers come in, not just as income tools, but as impact vehicles. Because wisdom that isn't distributed is wisdom that gets buried. Now we have pattern number 4. builders see beyond the moment. I want to talk about another character, book of the Bible called Nehemiah. He wasn't a preacher. He wasn't a king. He wasn't even a trained architect. He was a cupbearer for the king, someone close to power, but far from public influence. But when he saw that the walls of Jerusalem were in ruins, he didn't just grieve. He organized. He led. He cast vision. He built. Nehemiah didn't wait for someone else to go first. He took ownership. See, friend, that's what innovators do. They don't just identify the problem. They become the solution. Right now, the digital space is full of broken walls, misinformation, shallow content, over-commercialized voices, thought leaders without actual thought. And you have two choices. Number one, you can complain about it, or two, you can step up and create something better. Nehemiah's story shows us that prophetic creativity looks like quiet leadership. It looks like consistency, like building brick by brick while others are distracted. Friend, that's how movements are made. And then the fifth pattern, multiplication follows clarity. So I want to wrap this section up with Jesus, the ultimate creator. Whether you see him as Savior or not, he's mine. But whether you see him as Savior, teacher, philosopher, founder, there's no denying he flipped the world upside down with a message so clear it multiplied. Yes, he spoke in parables, but he taught frameworks. He broke down eternal truths into digestible concepts. He understood something many content creators miss. Clarity creates movements. Simplicity scales. If people can't understand your wisdom, they can't apply it. If they can't apply it, they can't experience transformation. And if they can't experience transformation, they won't spread the message. And this is how you package your message. This is why how you package your message matters. Now, again, Jesus is not creating a digital product here. He's not, he spoke in parables, and those parables and those mysteries were spoken to provoke the heart of the seeker. But you get what I'm saying. Jesus taught. He broke down eternal truths into these digestible concepts, and that's what caused this revolution. That was one of the ingredients that caused this revolution to take over the globe. Friend, that's why at Wise Builders, we don't just help people find their voice, we help them structure it. Because it's one thing to be gifted, it's another thing to be clear. And in today's world, the clear ones, they win. Now, you may be asking, what does this mean for me, Mark? Why did you just walk us through all of that? Because prophetic creativity isn't new. It's not some trend, but it's ancient. And for you kingdom people, it's a part of your heritage. And those who lean into it, those who build with revelation, strategy, long path clarity, are always the ones who shape the future. So let me break this down into something really practical. If you're trying to decide what to build next, if you're wondering if your wisdom matters, if you're overwhelmed by AI and the noise of the content economy, I want you to go back to the patterns. What insight do you have that others don't yet see? What framework are you carrying that solves a real problem? What burden have you been given that's meant to be built into something scalable? What walls are broken in your niche, your industry, your city, and what could you build to fix it? And if you sit with those questions long enough, the next right thing will reveal itself. And when it does, you don't need to rush, but you need to build. Now, we're going to tackle this head on. Artificial intelligence, threat, tool, or test. Because it's not just what AI is doing, it's what it's asking of us, okay? So let's get into it. Artificial intelligence, is it a threat to creativity? Is it a tool for productivity? Or is it a test of character, calling, and clarity? Well, the short answer is yes. It's all three. And depending on how you relate to it, it's going to either amplify your purpose or it could erode your voice. So let's unpack it. Number one, AI is a threat. Let's start with what's obvious. AI is moving fast, faster than most people are prepared for. It's already disrupting industries. Writers are being replaced by chatbots. Designers are being replaced by auto-generated visuals. Teachers are literally being challenged by AI tutors. Coaches are being mimicked by interactive prompts and self-paced programs, and it's only just begun. The barrier to entry has dropped to zero. Anyone can look like an expert. Anyone can build a brand. Anyone can sound smart online, whether they've lived it or not. Friend, that's a threat, not just to your life, not just to your business, but to trust, to discernment, to the integrity of creative work. And let me be blunt. If you build your brand on surface level knowledge, shortcuts, or imitation, AI will eventually outpace you and expose you because it will always be faster, cheaper, and it's always available. But friends, speed is not the same as significance. Just because a machine can say it faster doesn't mean it can say it better. Here's the real danger. If you stop creating from your own revelation and start copying what performs, you will become irrelevant faster than AI could ever make you. Secondly, AI is a tool. So let's look at the other side. AI is not just a threat. Used correctly, it's a massive tool. It can save you time, streamline systems, draft rough outlines, organize messy ideas, multiply your capacity. It's the assistant you never had, one that never sleeps and doesn't charge by the hour. But here's the key. AI should assist your voice, not replace it. The problem's when creators become dependent on it, not for support, but for substitution. They stop thinking deeply. They stop wrestling with the message. They stop sitting in silence long enough to create something original. And what happens? Everything they make starts sounding like everybody else. Because guess what? AI is trained on everyone else. And if you use AI to summarize your ideas, you'll be fine. If you use AI to supply your ideas, you'll become forgettable. So yes, use the tool, but don't let it become your crutch. Let AI help with structure and repurposing, formatting, research, but don't outsource your originality. Because if the insight or revelation didn't come from your life, your lens, your leadership, then it doesn't carry the power to truly connect. And then thirdly, AI as a test. Now here's the real angle that most people miss. AI is a test. It's a cultural litmus test for what we truly value. And it's testing each of us on 3 different levels. There's first the test of identity. Are you creating because it's trendy or because it's true to who you are? See, AI is challenging every creator, entrepreneur, and thought leader to define their why. In a world where anyone can look successful in a day, what makes your voice worth listening to? Your style? Your hustle? Your volume? No, it's your clarity. It's your ability to communicate something real, something people feel in their gut when they hear it. See, AI is testing whether you know the difference between activity and alignment, between performance and purpose, between trends and truth. And if you haven't done the identity work first, you'll end up using AI to amplify confusion instead of bringing clarity. But see, then there's secondly the test of integrity. Let's be honest. It's tempting to let AI do all the heavy lifting. Let it write your captions, let it script your sales page, let it produce your content. But here's the problem. Every time you remove yourself from the creative process, you risk removing your conviction from what you make. See, people can tell when something was mailed in. They can feel when something was created for views instead of impact. And that erosion of integrity doesn't always show up in your likes, but it will show up in your long-term trust. That's why prophetic creativity matters more now than it ever has. It's not about being perfect. It's about being present in your own creative process. It's about saying, if I'm going to put my name on it, it's got to carry my wisdom, not just words that fill a quota, okay? And then there's the test of intention. This is the one that probably hits the hardest. What are you actually trying to build? Are you trying to be impressive? Are you trying to be impactful? See, AI tempts us to build fast and wide, but prophetic creativity calls us to build deep and true. And there's a big difference. One creates followers, the other creates fruit. And I believe this AI age is testing all of us. Do you know your intention? Because if your intention is to serve, AI can help. But if your intention is to shortcut, AI will expose it. See, this moment will either be your breakthrough or your burnout. And the difference will be found in your intention. So what do? Guys, we lean into the advantage that can't be coded. Wisdom. Wisdom from your life experience. Wisdom from your failures. Wisdom from your relationships. Wisdom from your process. That's what AI doesn't have. It can mimic, it can replicate, but it can't discern. It doesn't know why what you say matters. It doesn't feel the weight of the stories behind your systems. It doesn't know what it costs to create from the deep places of lived experience. That's where your edge is, not in volume, but in value. And wisdom, when it's packaged the right way, is the most powerful business asset you can own in this AI age. Friend, we are standing in a defining moment. I believe we're standing at a turning point, and there will be two kinds of creators moving forward, the replicators and the rebuilders. Replicators are those who echo what's already out there. Rebuilders are those who shape something new from revelation. The replicators will rise fast and then fade. The rebuilders will take time, but through the long path will build trust. See, this episode isn't about getting you to fear AI. It's about making sure you don't forget the one thing that makes your voice irreplaceable: your wisdom. Not just what you know, but what you've lived, what you've learned, what you've earned through tears and time and trial. And that's what we're doing inside Wise Builders. We're helping people take that wisdom and build something that doesn't expire, a business, a product, a message that actually matters. So here's what I want you to ask yourself. What part of my message am I outsourcing? What ideas have I stopped digging into because I'm too busy chasing speed? What systems can I build so that AI works for me, not instead of me? And most of all, what part of me needs to re-engage with my own creativity? Because prophetic creativity doesn't mean you never use tools. It means you never let the tools lead the process. You lead, you listen, you refine, you speak from what you know, not just what sounds good. That's where impact begins. That's how legacies are built. That's how real movements are made. Now, I want to show you what it looks like to actually become a creative leader in a machine-driven world. We'll talk about how to position yourself, how to build credibility, how to stand out with substance. But before we go there, I want to give you another invitation to join me inside of Wise Builders' Wisdom to Wealth Challenge. Don't let this be another inspirational episode that fades away. Let it be a moment that you start building what only you can build. So I want you to click that link below in the show notes, reserve your seat. Let's jump in. Let's build something amazing. Now, let's talk about what it means to lead in a world that's increasingly ran by machines. Because here's the truth. As technology advances, leadership is no longer about access to tools. Everybody has access now. It's no longer about production speed. AI can beat us all. The future belongs to those who know how to lead with clarity, conviction, and creativity. Not just creators, but creative leaders. And if you're listening to this right now, I need you to hear this. We don't need more influencers. We need more architects. People who don't just build for attention, they build for alignment. People who aren't just chasing trends, they're shaping cultures. People who don't just want platform, they want to plant something that lasts. And the key isn't being the loudest, it's being the clearest. And let's make this real. A machine can create content, but a machine can't cast vision. It can't rally people around a deeper purpose. It can't call people into something bigger than themselves. That's your job. Creative leadership is not about producing more. It's about helping people see differently. See, that's why your clarity matters. The clearer your vision, the more powerful your presence. It's what makes people trust you. It's what makes them follow your business, your product, your message without needing hype to do it. because vision draws loyalty, and vision rooted in wisdom, that's what creates movements that you don't have to constantly maintain. Now, I'm just going to say this. I believe we're entering into the age of the micro messenger. You don't need to be a celebrity or a creative leader in this era. In fact, the celebrity model is fading. People are no longer looking for wisdom from unattainable icons. They're looking for relatable guides, someone who's a few steps ahead, someone who's walked the path and can hand them a map. That's the beauty of digital products. It's a map. Coaching, online business right now, you're handing people a map. And you don't have to have millions of followers. You just need to solve a real problem with real wisdom. You don't need to scale to everyone. You need to speak to someone. That's creative leadership in the AI age. It's focused, it's intentional, it's deeply human, and it's yours to walk into if you're willing to own your story and lead with what you've learned. See, machines can do a lot, but here's what they can't do. They can't tell your story, and your story is still your advantage. They didn't live through your challenges. They didn't walk through your mistakes. They didn't carry your burdens. They didn't wrestle with your doubts. So don't hide your story in the name of looking quote unquote professional. Your story is your credibility. It is your advantage. Your lived experience is your trust factor. And in the sea of sameness, real stories are the most powerful sales strategy there is. They create resonance. And when someone resonates with your story, they'll follow your leadership. They'll listen to your offers. They'll trust your process because you didn't just say something smart. You showed them what's possible. Now, what I'm about to say is really important. Leaders create context, not just content. See, we live in a world flooded with content, but most of it lacks context. Guys, people are scrolling through 1-minute clips and 280 character quotes and wondering why their life is still feeling chaotic. It's because content without context creates confusion. And you can see this in the comments of these kind of posts. It's like, okay, what's the point? What's the context? Hey, thanks for the content. Thanks for sucking my attention out of me for the last minute. Can you tell me what the context is? And see, that's why we need prophetic, creative leaders bringing perspective. You don't just throw out facts, you interpret them. You help people make sense of their season. You frame truth in a way that's usable. That's what separates thought leaders from noisemakers. You create frameworks, not just posts. You create blueprints, not just buzz. You create containers that people can actually step into and grow. Whether it's a course, a podcast, a product, a coaching offer, you're not just handing out ideas, you're creating environments that facilitate transformation. See, friend, when you can shift out of just handing out ideas to starting to create culture and environments that facilitate transformation, that's where we start leading like Jesus like he was able to lead. So that takes me to my next point. Let's talk about authority. In a world where anyone and everyone can create content, what makes someone worth following? Not just charisma, not just clever branding, but authority, the weight behind your words. And authority comes from what you've lived, what you've overcome, what you've built, what you've led others through. And friend, you don't need a certification for that. You don't need a viral platform. What you need is a deep knowing of who you are and what you carry. You need to stop apologizing for the wisdom you've earned. You need to stop holding back because someone with a better camera or a louder voice seems more qualified. Because here's the truth. If you've walked through something that others are still stuck in, you have authority. If you've built something that solves a real problem, you have authority. If you've seen what's coming and you're willing to say it before it's popular, you have authority. And in this machine age, human authority is one thing you cannot manufacture. So own it, lead from it, create from it, build a business that reflects it. Here's the bottom line, guys. Creative leadership starts with one thing, a message. a message you've earned, a message that burns in you, a message that can't be shaken by the rise of machines, the pace of trends, or the noise of social media. That message becomes your mission. That mission becomes a movement, and eventually becomes a movement that's unstoppable, but only if you protect the message and keep showing up. This is what we're building in Wise Builders. Not just content creators, but creative leaders. Not just products, but prophetic businesses. Not just brands, but movements built on wisdom. You don't need to wait for permission, nor do you need to keep chasing perfection. You just need to lead with what you know and let it multiply. Now, I'm about to get ultra practical, and I'm going to walk you through 5 specific ways the church and creators just like you must respond in this new era of artificial intelligence, okay? So I'm going to bring it down to earth. I'm going to bring it right down to you. We've talked about the moment we're in. We've talked about what's at stake. We've talked about prophetic creativity and why it matters more now than ever. But what does it look like to actually respond? Not just react, not just retreat, but respond with clarity, with strategy, and with courage. Because AI is here and it's not going away. And trying to pretend like it doesn't exist, or worse, demonizing it, is a huge mistake. Friend, the current version of AI is not the Antichrist or the beginning of the Antichrist. So let's stop demonizing it. Let's stop pretending like it doesn't exist and put our head between our legs or bury our head in the sand. The question is, how do we engage without losing our message? How do we innovate without compromising our values? How do we use the tools without letting the tools use us? So I want to offer 5 bold but practical ways that I believe the church and any kingdom-minded creator or entrepreneur needs to respond right now. Number 1, embrace the tool without replacing the process. So here's the tension. AI is helpful, but if we're not careful, it becomes habitual. Let me explain. It takes over. You stop thinking, you stop writing, you stop creating from your own process. And now you're publishing content you didn't even wrestle through, which means it doesn't carry the same weight. So here's the mindset shift. Let AI help you speed up the delivery, but never shortcut the development. Let it organize your outline. Let it repackage your post. Let it help with ideas or flow. I do it all the time in my business. But don't let it create what only you should carry. Use the tool, but protect your process. Because it's in that process, your journaling, your voice notes, your quiet time, your draft folder, that original wisdom gets unearthed. And that wisdom is your greatest asset in this noisy digital world. Secondly, guys, as a church, as kingdom creators, we've got to double down on human connection. As the world becomes more automated, you know what's going to stand out? Real human presence. People who actually show up, people who listen well, people who respond with empathy, not auto replies, people who know your name and remember your story. That's the church's edge. That's your edge as a content creator or business owner. The world is tired of AI-generated DMs and robotic customer support. They're hungry for real relationships so that while others scale cold, you build warm. While others hide behind software, you stay present. While others focus on going viral, you focus on building trust. Because trust is what builds movements. Trust is what sustains business. And trust is still built one human interaction at a time. Third thing, this is big, don't get offended. Teach discernment, not just doctrine. This one's big for the church specifically. See, the rise of AI is bringing a flood of information. But information without wisdom leads to confusion. Now, I'm about to say something that really gets on my nerves. People are getting their theology from TikTok. They're getting life strategies from influencers on social media that they don't even know the fruit of their lives. They're getting money advice from an anonymous post with fancy fonts, and most of it, it's surface level, it's regurgitated, it's algorithm driven, and can I be honest? Most of it's misinformation. Guys, the church and wise creators, we have to step into this gap. not to throw stones, but to offer substance. We don't need to preach harder. We just need to teach discernment, how to think, how to filter, how to know what's real, what's wise, what's worth your time. Because in a world where machines can mimic anything, discernment becomes a survival skill. Guys, we've got to raise up people who know how to navigate information, not just consume it. I'm telling you, I'm so tired of these freaking TikTokers getting on talking about things that they don't even have a clue about. Eschatology, the end times, spiritual warfare. They don't have a clue, yet this is who's informing this generation. Okay, fourthly, I'm not going to rant on that. The fourth thing, build the infrastructure for wisdom-based business. Now, this is for my entrepreneurs, coaches, messengers, course creators. The church has often been behind the curve when it comes to innovation. We've reacted to culture instead of shaping it. But what if this is our moment to lead? Right now, the world is obsessed with automation, with productivity, with digital tools that make money while you sleep. And honestly, that's not wrong. But most of the people teaching this stuff are doing it with no compass, no deeper why, no clarity of purpose, no long path vision. And that's where you come in. If you're a faith-driven voice, if you carry experience and frameworks or wisdom that could help others, now is the time to build the infrastructure. You need a lead magnet that attracts the right people. You need a digital course or coaching offer to solve a real problem. You need to build an online community space that cultivates trust and transformation. You need a marketing strategy that doesn't rely on hype, but it actually helps people. That's what we're doing in Wise Builders. We're giving kingdom voices the systems and the blueprint to multiply their wisdom and build real wealth without selling out or burning out. Friend, you don't have to choose between integrity and income. You just need the right blueprint, and I believe at Wise Builders we have that. 5, last thing here, model a slower, wiser way of living. This may be the most countercultural thing you can do in the AI era. Slow down. Don't race. Don't rush. Don't get addicted to speed, scale, or shortcuts. See, the world, and I dare say most of the church, is being discipled by urgency, by instant results, by 10x your life in 10 minutes. But wisdom doesn't come in a rush. Neither does depth, neither does legacy. So what if your greatest witness isn't your next post? But what if it's a lifestyle of peace? What if the people you lead don't just learn from what you say, but how you carry yourself? With clarity instead of chaos. With discernment instead of distraction. With creativity that isn't manic, but measured. See, that's the kind of presence this age needs. That's the kind of leadership AI can't replicate. And that's the kind of person I believe you're called to be. So the call's clear. This is your moment to decide. Will you stay passive or will you start building? Will you echo what's already out there or will you release what's inside you, the authentic, original you? Will you get swallowed up by the algorithm or will you rise above with intention and clarity? This is not about being famous. At least it's not for me. This is about being faithful to what you carry. Because make no mistake, you carry something no machine can produce. You carry wisdom, you carry story, you carry fire, and the world is desperate for it. So take that message, turn it into a movement, structure it, share it, and do not look back. So let's finish strong. So far, we've talked about where we are, what AI is doing, what it means for wisdom, business, and leadership, and how we respond. But now I want to speak to where we're going, because I believe we're standing at a historic intersection, not just of technology and creativity, but of calling and opportunity. And I want to offer you a prophetic picture of the future, not just in a spiritual sense, but in a strategic one. Because if you understand the patterns, you can prepare for the pivot. Now, let me show you what I see coming and why it matters so much that you step into the creative lane that's been reserved for you. First of all, I see the collapse of noise-driven influence. Friend, we have lived in a world too long built on clicks, clout, and attention. But the algorithm is getting smarter than the average creator. We're about to see a collapse in what I call noise-driven influence. The kind that's built on shock value, the kind that says whatever it takes to go viral, the kind that gains followers but lacks foundation. Why? Because people are exhausted. They're tired of being manipulated by headlines, tired of being sold to by people who don't care. They're tired of content that overpromises and underdelivers. There's a hunger that's rising for something deeper. And when that collapse happens, trust becomes the new currency, which means those who have been quietly building, those who have stayed rooted in wisdom, those who have chosen clarity over chaos are about to step into unprecedented influence. Not because they shouted the loudest, but because they carried the most truth. I see a rise of what I'm calling the wisdom economy. We're about to see a shift from attention-based business to the wisdom economy. That's where people no longer pay for entertainment or hype. They pay for clarity, for results, for blueprints and revelation they can trust. In the wisdom economy, the most valuable products are not flashy, they're transformational. And they're built by people like you, people who've lived something real, people who have walked through pain and turned it into a process, people who have insights the world needs, not just content it wants. See, AI can flood the market with surface level content, but the wisdom economy thrives on depth. And that means you're positioned perfectly. But let me say it this way. You're positioned perfectly if you have the courage to package what you carry. And this is why I believe in digital products so deeply. They let you take what you've lived, what you've learned, and turn it into something that serves others and builds real wealth. Not wealth for vanity's sake, but wealth for vision and purpose and calling. I also see a new kind of creator who's going to lead. The creators who win in this next era won't be the ones who know how to go viral. They'll be the ones who know how to go vertical. What I mean is, they won't just spread content wide. They'll build it from a deeper place. They'll create from personal integrity. They'll share what they've tested. They'll speak from a place of alignment, not ambition. These creators won't be trying to impress. They will be endeavoring to empower. And people will follow them because their work feels different. Because it's not regurgitated, because it's not manicured, because it's real. You feel it when you see it. You know it when you hear it. That's what we're raising up in wise builders. Not performers, not more online experts, but wise messengers, creators with depth, entrepreneurs with conviction, movements that change the trajectory of families, industries, and cities. Friend, this is your time. And let me zoom out even further. I believe the next great cultural shift is going to come not from pulpits, but from platforms built on the digital online space. Not from institutions, but from entrepreneurs. Not from celebrity Christians, but from everyday kingdom creatives who decide to build something that matters. And I'm not talking about religious content. I'm talking about people who lead from a value system that's grounded, unshaken, and future ready. People who use their business as a tool for restoration, who use media to speak hope and truth, who use creativity to reframe culture, who use wisdom to rebuild what's been broken. I believe we're about to see coaches mentor with heart, not hustle. I believe we're going to see writers crafting ideas that renew minds, not just stir emotion. I believe we're about to see communities that are built, not built around performance, but established by purpose. I believe we're going to see companies that are both profitable and principled. This is the next wave. And the leaders won't be the ones who chased opportunity. They'll be the ones who stewarded wisdom. And then lastly, and this is where I'll end, the world may get noisier, AI may get smarter, economies may shift, but there's one thing that's never shaken. Wisdom built lives, wisdom built families, wisdom built businesses. When you build on wisdom, you're not reactive, you're not rushing, you're not chasing, you're rooted, prepared, resilient. And that's why I believe now is the time to step into prophetic creativity. Not hype-driven creativity, not hustle-based creativity, but wisdom-infused, impact-focused, deeply aligned creativity. That's what multiplies. That's what gets remembered. That's what changes lives. Now, I'm about to issue a closing charge, a challenge, a call to rise, a call to activate what you've heard in this episode, to take a real step forward, okay? But right now, if you've been waiting for clarity, this is it. I want you to join me for our 3-day Wisdom to Wealth Challenge. It's time to build that thing that's been burning in you for years and years. The course, the offer, the message, the movement, all you have to do is go into the show notes below, the description of this podcast, click that challenge link, and let's build this thing together. Now, you've made it to the end. And if you're still here, still listening, still leaning in, it tells me something. You're not average. You're not afraid of depth. You're not here to play it safe, ride trends, or let the future happen to you. You're here to shape it. You're a builder, a messenger, a voice. And whether you realize it or not, your voice still matters in this machine age. Because the future doesn't belong to the fastest. It belongs to the wisest, to those who build from clarity, who create from integrity, who don't just post to be seen, but speak to bring change. You've heard me say it throughout this episode, but let me say it plainly. This is your moment, not to consume more, but to create with purpose, not to blend in, but to build what others are still waiting to see. Don't let the rise of artificial intelligence make you shrink back. Let it wake you up to your voice, to your wisdom, to the very real opportunity in front of you. And I don't know where you are right now in your journey. Maybe you've been watching from the sidelines. Maybe you've launched before and it didn't work out. Maybe you've been stuck trying to figure out your niche, your offer, your audience, and maybe part of you is wondering, do I really have something to say? Will anyone care? Is it too late? Let me say it like this. Let me just speak this directly to you. You're not late. You're right on time. And everything you've walked through, the pain, the confusion, the seasons of silence, has been preparing you to build with clarity now. So if you've been waiting for a sign, this is it. This is your confirmation, your activation moment. Let this be the day you stop consuming and start building. Stop wondering and start wielding the wisdom that you've been given. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to stop scrolling, doom scrolling, stop overthinking, stop waiting for everything to be perfect, and I want you to step into action. So I want you to go right now to courses.markcasto.co/challenge. Sign up for the Wise Builders Wisdom to Wealth Challenge. It's 3 days, no fluff, high impact clarity. We're going to help you take your story, your process, your system, and turn it into a digital product business that changes lives and creates wealth without compromise. Not just side hustle income, not just content creation for content's sake, but a wisdom built on, or a business built on your wisdom. And this is where you move from scattered to structured, from inspired to in motion. And if you're and if you've listened to this episode and something inside of you stirring, and you're saying, Mark, listen, I've got to do something. Please don't wait. This isn't about me. This is about the people who are waiting for what you carry. Because I believe there's someone, maybe hundreds, maybe thousands, who can't step into their next level until you release what's in you. Friend, you're not building, and we're not building for vanity. We're building for impact. We're not here to create noise. We're here to create a movement. And movements start with a single decision. Guys, the age of artificial intelligence isn't the death of creativity. It's the refining of it. It's the line in the sand where we choose to either create from a shallow, outsourced place, or we create from the deep, tested places inside of us. If you're a wisdom-led messenger, if you believe the world needs more substance, if you know it's time to turn your insight into impact, then I want to really invite you to take the next step with me. Let's build something that lasts. Let's rise above the noise. Let's put wisdom back in the spotlight, because the world doesn't need another influencer. It needs wise builders. And the next one might just be you. So friend, this has been the Mark Casto Program. We're going to continue to challenge old systems, build with kingdom clarity, and help a generation of wise messengers turn their God-given wisdom into lasting impact and real wealth. So until next time, keep building, keep creating, and keep showing the world what wisdom looks like in action.